Hello everyone, welcome to part 15 of my Windows Server 2025 training series. Today we're going to be discussing file server configuration. This is very exciting because I promise you, if you're in IT, eventually you're going to have to tinker with a Windows file share. They're extremely common in a corporate world. So what are we going to discuss today? Just to provide a quick overview as to what a file server is, it's just a dedicated computer or a network attached storage device that's sitting on your network. It's used to easily manage and store files. So think about other devices being able to easily access files from a centralized storage point. Primary uses of a file server that you'll see is you're going to see these used a lot with company shared drives. So think if a engineering department needs a company shared drive or a marketing department, etc. Typically, each department will have their own shared drive, or at least they'll have a drive with permissions baked into each one of their folders, which we'll go over a little later. These can also be used for home folders for users. Shared drives can also be used to store backup files. We can use these with Windows Server backups. Veeam is another common backup provider, but it's definitely handy to use a centralized file server to store the majority of your files. And last but not least, Windows Server uses the SMB, the Server Message Block Protocol, to allow file sharing to happen. It is the native protocol that Windows uses, so you're going to see it everywhere. And last but not least, it utilizes TC port 445. That's good to know. In our lab today, we're going to use our VM created from that previous Hyper-V Golden Image creation lesson titled GT-File1. We're going to install the file server role on that VM. Then we're going to create a new virtual disk that's going to store our share data. The reason we're doing this is you don't want to have your share data on your main OS drive. It's not best practice to do that, and there's lots of handy things you can do if it's segregated. As a quick example, you can actually take that separate drive and attach it to another file server if you're ever doing any kind of migration. So that's just one of many reasons as to why you want to do that. It'll just make your life easier in the long run. After that, we're going to create a new file share. Then we're going to review permissions and a couple of additional settings that can be configured for the file shares. Then we're going to review how to connect to our new shared drive and map it as a drive letter. And last but not least, just so you know, the IP address for our new VM is going to be 192.168.99.210. I went ahead and pre-set up all of the VM network information and got it ready, just because we've covered a lot of that in the previous lessons, and it's just going to speed us up where we can get through this quickly. But let's go ahead and jump into our lab. Now that we're over in our lab, let's go ahead and connect to GT-File1. Let's confirm our IP address information. We also see that we're on the domain. Awesome. So let's go ahead and open up Server Manager. We're going to go to Manage, Add Roles and Features. Next, Role-Based or Feature-Based Installation. We're going to select Next again. And we're going to do File and Storage Services. Go ahead and expand this. And let's go ahead and click the File Server role. So there's a couple other services we're going to install in a later lesson, but for now we're just going to do the file server. So we're going to click Next, 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 Install. And as soon as this is finished, we'll pop back over and start configuring it. With our role successfully installed, let's go ahead and verify that we now have our shares. So perfect. Looks like we can create a new share, but we're not going to do that just yet. We're going to go ahead and go to our VM settings. And we're going to create that new virtual drive that's going to hold our data. So let's go ahead and add. We click new. We're going to choose our disk type, and I'm just going to do dynamically expanding. Typically, this is the usual virtual disk that you're going to be using. If you want to do fixed size, you can. It's really not going to affect anything. The main benefit of our dynamically expanding is it just allows it to be small when it's initially created, and as we add more files to it, it'll naturally expand. So it helps save us quite a bit of space. And we're just going to call this company shared data, and we'll call it 1. And let's go ahead and make this 200 gigabytes. That'll be plenty for us. We're going to click next and finish and apply. So now we see that that's there. We're going to go ahead and go back to our VM, and we're actually going to go to disk management. is we have to activate that drive now that it's connected. As if you see, if we go to our File Explorer, that drive is not going to be listed until we actually activate it. So we're going to bring it online. We see that we have 200 gigabytes unallocated. We're going to initialize the disk. GPT is fine. What we want. And we see we have one additional step that we need to do. So we have unallocated space. We have to make a new simple volume. We're going to use all the space on this drive. And we're going to assign the letter to the Z drive. Typically Z isn't commonly used, and it's a safe bet to use. So let's go ahead and do that. The file system is going to be NTFS, default for allocation unit size, and the volume label is going to be company share data. Perform a quick format's fine. We're not going to enable file and folder compression. And there we go. So now that we see that we've activated it and we have it on the drive letter, if we go to File Explorer, now we see our company share data. Now that we made it this far, let's go ahead and create our two shared folders. We're going to create an engineering folder, and we're going to create a marketing folder. And we're also going to close and reopen Server Manager just so it's aware that that new drive exists. Give it a quick little refresh there. Now let's go ahead and create our two shares. Let's maximize Server Manager to give us some more room. Go to File and Storage Services. We're going to go to Shares. We're going to go Task and New Share. And we're going to do SMB Share Quick. We're going to type a custom path since we already have our folders created. And let's go ahead and pick our engineering department first. And next, share name is fine. We can leave that as engineering. We're going to say this share is for the engineering department. Give it a nice little description. We're going to verify that our paths look good. So yeah, everything looks great. And we're going to disable caching of share. I'm not a big fan of this feature because what usually ends up happening is a user, their cache will be kind of bugged out where they think that they're accessing the shared drive, but they're not. They're actually accessing a cached version of the drive. So let's go ahead and disable that. We're going to also enable access-based enumeration. What this does is it just ensures that users only see what they have access to. Anything that they don't will just be invisible. And we're also going to go ahead and click the encrypt data access box, as it never hurts to have data encryption. And then permissions, let's go ahead and customize. And what we'll do is let's go ahead and go to our Windows 11 VM. We're going to create two security groups. So it looks like I already have marketing department created. So our first one is going to be that marketing department, and we'll create that engineering department also, just so we have both. And perfect. So let's go back to our file server. And you can see currently administrators have access. Users of the file server do, but domain users do not. Since we're going to lock this server down a little more, we're going to go to our principals. We're going to go and look at our engineering group. Once we verify that we have permission to do so. And it looks like it hasn't replicated just yet. So let's go back here and see if we can force replication. So let's go ahead and see which DC this is replicated to. It's also good for us to have a quick little reminder on this. That way we can get these groups going. All right. And DCT, we won't worry about that. We'll just do it from the RSAT box. It'll make it a little easier. All right, so let's look at what domain controller we're connected to. So we are on DC2. So that changes on 2, and it hasn't been replicated to 1. So let's go ahead and replicate. That's one thing that you will run into with groups if they haven't fully replicated throughout the domain. You may not be able to access them. But since we know it's on DC2, let's go ahead and exit. We're going to run that repadmin command. And there we go. Perfect. So now if we go back to our file server, there's our engineering department. It's now able to be found. It exists. So we're going to click that. We're going to say the engineering department has modify permissions. Okay. And apply. Perfect. So we see they're there. So let's go ahead and create that guy. We're going to go back here. Let's check our engineering folder. We're going to look at our NTFS permissions. And we see engineering department has modify permissions. Great. That's exactly what we want. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and create our next share, which is going to be our marketing department. It's going to be the same setup. We're going to do quick and set a custom path. We're going to click marketing, select folder. Next, this share is for the marketing department. And there we go. We're going to disable caching, enable access-based enumeration, and encrypt the data access. And customize permissions. We're going to go ahead and add the marketing department. Oh, and let me redo that password. All right, perfect. So they're going to have modify and okay. We're going to apply and we're good. Perfect. So now both of our shares are set up. So what does that look like and how do you actually access them? So if we go and type gt-file1, we see both of our shares are listed. Perfect. Let's go ahead and go into our marketing folder and I'll show you something else you'll need to know with NTFS permissions. So by default, those permissions are going to be inherited. So if we create a new folder that just says pics for picnic, let's look at the permissions and our properties and check it out. So it auto inherited those permissions. So another thing that we're going to do on both of these folders is we do want domain admins to have access to everything. But the easiest way to do this, let's check our properties here. We're going to go to security. We see administrators have access. But we're going to go ahead and add domain administrators. Oh, and I did that again. Too many passwords to keep track of. Oh, and domain admins. Telling you, my brain is all over the place tonight. So modify in full control and apply. And beautiful. Let's go ahead and check our permissions here. And that's inheritance. So it trickled down. So we've got all of our permissions set correctly. So you may be wondering, how exactly do we map a drive? It's pretty easy. You can go to this PC, map a network drive, and we're going to call this just the U drive. And we'll say it's gt-file1/engineering. And we're just going to connect it just for demonstration purposes. We're not going to use this reconnected sign-in or connect using different credentials. And there we go. There's our folder. Let's do the same thing with marketing. Map a network drive. We're going to give this one just the V. We're going to say this is gt-file1/marketing. And we're done. We see our pics for picnic folder. So typically what you'll see people do is in a domain environment, you'll actually map shared drives based off of those security groups, and then you'll do it through a group policy object. This ensures that each department has access to what they need. And we'll cover that group policy object here in just a bit. But what we'll go ahead and do now that we have everything set up, just something cool you probably need to know is with these shares, there's a share name of engineering, but if we want a share to actually be hidden, we can create a hidden share, and how we do that is we actually throw in a $sign. So let's create our new folder. Let's call this hidden share. Go back and create our new share. Type a custom path, hidden share. That's fine. So our share name is going to be hidden share $. So adding that $sign is going to make sure that it's hidden. We're going to say this is a test hidden share for demonstration purposes. We're going to disable that, enable access base, and encrypt data access. And that's fine, sure. And create. And now, you see if we go back and try to access these shares, that hidden share isn't listed. So if a user was tech savvy enough to get to this folder here, where they can actually enumerate the shares, they will not know that there's a hidden share there. But if we type it in, there it is. And we can create a new folder, do whatever we want here. All right, so that pretty much covers the basics of shared drive creation. As a bonus, I want to go ahead and show you how to do a group policy that's going to automatically map shared drive for the marketing department. It would just be good that you know how to do this because you will run into this at some point working with Windows Server. So if you recall from our previous lessons, we can just go to our Windows RSAT box. We're going to sign back in and we're going to open up Group Policy Editor. Okay, and we're going to create a new group policy object. And we're going to call this Marketing Department Share Drive Mapping. That's fine. Then let's go ahead and right click and edit. Then we're going to hit User Configuration. We're going to go to Preferences, Windows Settings, and Drive Maps. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new map drive. You can just leave this as update. So update's typically the most safe action you can do. So if this drive already exists, it'll be updated. If it doesn't exist, it'll be created. Let's go ahead and say the location is going to be... Oh, let's type that in manually versus dealing with that. Let's do gt-file1/marketing. Reconnect, and we're going to label it as marketing department. And we're going to say we want to use, what was that drive letter? I think I said U or V. Yep, so V. Go ahead and do V. And no changes. We can just leave that. Doesn't really matter. But we see it's there and it's going to update it. Now what we can also do, since we only want the marketing department to have access to this, let's create us a new OU. So let's go ahead and right click on our home office here. Get a new organizational unit. We're going to do marketing department. And what we'll go ahead and do is we'll just move me to that marketing department. And then that's fine. You can just click yes. Double check and make sure we're connected to DC2. And perfect. So now we have our marketing department OU. Let's sync our domain controller just so everything's up to date. All right, beautiful. We're going to go back to our RSAT machine again. Group policy, and we're going to go ahead and refresh. And there's our marketing department. So let's go ahead and link that marketing department share. All right, perfect. Looks good. We'll double check our settings. So we see it's a user configuration and it's going to map the V drive as GT File1 Marketing. Perfect. So let's go ahead and test it out. Let's run that sync one more time, just in case anything hasn't caught up. Open up a command prompt. And we're also going to open up File Explorer. Run that GP update force. The computer policy update is applied successfully. The user policy is also updated. Let's look at our GP result. So it looks like it hasn't synced yet. Let's go to GTDC1. This can be one annoying thing when you have multiple domain controllers, is making sure everything's synced. All right, so both should be synced. We're going to run another GP update force. So computer policy is updated successfully. User policy is updated, and check it out. There's our marketing department drive. So let's double check our GPO. And there it is. There's the marketing department shared drive mapping. So that's pretty much it for this lesson. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I know this has been a little bit all over the place with the file server, but there's a lot to cover. And there's even more whenever we get into DFSR, which is exciting. That's going to be in the next lesson. But that's going to cover it. I'd like to thank you all for watching again. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'm here to help with anything that you need. I really have a passion for doing this, and I hope that you'll catch me in the next training videos. Thank you so much. Peace.